First derby you ever saw live?
Well, it's the 1990 ground derby at Wimbledon, and it was won by Slippy Blue.
Of course, yeah. Should have guessed that, really. And I guess the most memorable derby for you would be fairly close to that as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was Slippy Blue as well. You would have to say it. You know, with us getting, my mum and dad getting that dog at 12 weeks old, and we were rearing that dog at Coneygarth Farm on our land, did everything with that dog right until he went to Norman Oliver, starting his career off. You know, to then sell it to Alan Carter and go to Kenny Lindsell and then have a prolific first season, what he won. And then to go on and win the derby after that, when we were there, going on the presentation, going on the lap of honour, like for a 17-year-old lad at the time, it was just fabulous. You take that in and you think, wow, it is amazing, you know, and you can't really put words to it.
No,
you know?
no.
You can't put words to it. And so that's what's, you know, I've always remembered that, and I can never forget that night.
Of course, because the dog was actually bred in Scotland, wasn't he? He
was bred in Scotland by William McAllister.
Yeah.
His father and Willie were great friends for a number of years. And we went one day, and there was actually a little thing about it. My dad bought it, and he was rearing. And one Christmas, he didn't have a present for me mum for Christmas. And he picked out this blue dog out of the paddock, and he'd come in the house with it, and he says, "There you are, that's your Christmas box." and it did turn out to win the derby, which was just fabulous, you know. Yeah.
Actually, it was quite late. It was 2007 Westmead Lord.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was that late. And the reason, actually, it should have been 1982, actually, Laurie's Panther at White City. Because when I first started getting into dogs, it was at Romford. And Laurie's Panther, as you know, started at Romford with Terry Duggan. And I knew friends of the owners. And we were following him. And it was just when I started to get into ground racing, was sort of 80, 81 when I started going to Romford. And then met up with Danny Bird, actually, was a local bookmaker's son. And they had dogs with Terry Duggan. And I almost went that night. And for whatever reason, I never did. But then, of course, from 1990 through to 2000, Floyd, I was racing manager at Crayford. So I was always working on a Saturday night at Crayford. So I was always watching it on Sky. And then really the opportunity came when we had Spirit Louis was on the undercard on 2007, and he won the Durando that night. I think he broke the track record as well. But it was Westmead Lord. And actually, where we were sitting, we were right next to Bob Morton, and all the party there, so we were sort of all quite close to the jubilations, if you like.
1978, Lacquer champion.
Really, I was there that night. That was the first time you'd actually been along with your mum and dad.
Yeah, because I went to every round live, every round, and Dad was superstitious, so I had to go to the. Well, I wanted to go anyway, so I went to the final and saved his seat till he got there after second kenneling. So yeah, it was the first one live. Yeah,
because he if I remember, he ran the trial stake at Haringey, didn't he, that year? Because I was there for that.
Yeah, he went through that. He won that, and he won every round of the Derby.
Yeah,
which back in those days was unheard of, really, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And then so desperately unlucky the following year.
He was second the following year. So look, he won it. It was all good.
It was Blonde Snapper at Wimbledon. I remember it because I'd bet Fallow Ironman. This is, I think I was about 17, 18. I was
going to say you were barely out of school, surely.
I'd bet Fallow Ironman anti-post. I think I had like £2 each way at like 66 to 1, whatever. I think it's the only one. I don't even, looking back, I don't even know why I fancied that. But it got to the final, obviously, and went off favourite. And it turned second, I think, down the second bend. And there's a video of like Matt Dartnell giving all sorts in the middle, like thinking that he's going to catch Blonde Snapper, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. But yeah, that was the first derby that I went to, and I've been to every one since then.
Fallow Melody, Matt O'Donnell won it.
92 was that, wasn't it?
92.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, me and my brother jumped a flight for Glasgow, flew down to London, Heathrow, got a taxi from Heathrow out to London, out to Wimbledon. Just got to the gate and the man put the sign out, full house, right? But he let us in. So we got in, and what a night it was. It was my first experience at Wimbledon, and it was absolutely out of this world. chock-a-block, full to capacity. So it was brilliant.
Alan Gift, 2002.
We've already spoken, so I know what the answer is going to be to this, which quite impresses me because I've got an association with this myself. Your first derby you saw live?
Yeah, 1976, Mutt Silver. Led all the way. I didn't quite get it, but it was at White City, short running. You probably know more details about the race than me, but I think he might have won by about a length. I don't know. But yeah, that was my first derby. Very enjoyable. I went to a couple of the earlier rounds. But yeah, that was my first derby.
Yeah, and this is your kind of talk, but Mutt Silver is particularly close to me because I was at White City. I was working at White City the following year, and he went out in the semi-finals. And I can remember Anne Martin leading him round, and he came off with, I think, in semi-finals with a shoulder injury. And ultimately, my parents, we stood him at stud later in his career. And in fact, I remember he'd served some. He wasn't a good stud dog. He wasn't successful. And but we had him at stud. And the one day I went into his kennel, and he was chewing, had mouthfuls and mouthfuls of straw. He was having a fit. And I sort of ran in the kennel and pulled all the straw out of his throat, and he bit me. But poor dog was in such a poor state. And we sent him straight down to Bruce Prohl at Northall. And unfortunately, they had to put him down the following day. And he'd had some kind of brain aneurysm or something. So it's
not a good memory.
Yeah.
Oh well, sorry to bring that up.